I wanted to talk about the title of this video is going to be Half Full Disclosure. And the reason it's only half full is because I'm an optimistic person. But I wanted to talk about disclosure when it comes to your children. And there will be a time in every parent's life where your child will say something, will bring forth something that you've done, whether it was when they were 2, 3, 4, 8, 12, whatever, and try to make you feel guilty for whatever odd reason, whether it's that they want a toy or they want to go out with their friends, or they're in trouble and they say, well, when you were, when I was 8 years old, you did X, Y, and Z. So your children are gonna, your child or children, or they'll gang up on you, which is the worst. They will talk about what you've done, and they will basically say, you were a terrible parent, or they hate you, or how dare you, and how can you expect me to be perfect when you, whatever. And so, just want to talk about what's very important when you are a parent, or whatever, you're around children, that possibly will turn against you. Why it's so very important to use half full disclosures. And I'm going to say this because we as people are not perfect. And we as parents do some crazy stuff. There's things we already feel guilty about. And the one thing, situation that still hurts my heart, even when I talk about it, is when my oldest daughter was little. She got a cavity and she had to have a root canal when she was just a little thing. And my heart, I was a medic in the Army, so I'd seen procedures. But when your child is having a procedure and the medical professional does not want you in the room, that is heartbreaking. When it's a dental procedure, it's heartbreaking because you're like, oh, I'll be cool, I'll be okay. Because you just want to be in the room to hold your kid's hand and to let them know it's okay. But in this situation, it was, we were on base, but we had to go to a dentist off base. And she said, well, we're going to take her back. And I said, okay. And the dentist doesn't really disclose what happens when they take your child back when they need certain procedures, because they just know they just know that you would rather die than probably know. So they take her back, and you hear your child in extreme discomfort. You just can't really talk about. And they bring your child out, and they brought my daughter out, and her face was just bloodshot, her eyes, and she is just, oh my gosh. And she comes out, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what happened? And they said, well, we had to papoose her. They had to strap her down in order to numb her and remove, oh my God. And I, as a parent, still carry guilt to this day, because I think she has a fear of needles because of that situation. But I took her, and I couldn't take away what was done because she needed the procedure, but it was just, I was just broken. So to this day, you can tell I still carry incredible guilt and shame for that situation, which was medically necessary. And there are so many things that happen as parents as we're learning and we're growing. And there's things we forget to do as parents. And sometimes our kids might fall because they're just, because we're humans. I'm clumsy, so I fall all the time. But I just want to talk about how very important it is when these things happen, these unfortunate accidents or unfortunate circumstances happen when you're a parent, and the things that break your heart when you raise your children. Oh, another thing that happened that I still feel guilty about is we had bought our first house, and my youngest daughter was walking around with her little dress shoes on, and she had her dress on, and my then husband was in the garage, working in the garage, and I said to him, just be really careful, because there's nails out here. And next thing I hear this blood curdling scream, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I run outside, and she had there was a board with a nail sticking up through the board, and she had stepped on it, and it went up into her heel, and it was, so I called, I slowly pulled it off, took her shoe off, and obviously it had gone up into her heel, and called the doctor. And I said, what? They said, scrub it. Scrub it every 10 minutes, let it bleed out, and she should be fine. The nail was clean, fortunately. So I had to hold her little foot and scrub her little foot every so many minutes just to let it bleed out, just to, whatever. And her great, oh my goodness. So these are the things that our children remember. That was an unfortunate accident. But there's so many things we do as parents that our children don't remember. They're not going to remember, maybe, at the age of 1 or 2, that they tripped and fell and maybe bumped their mouth and got a little, or they bumped their eye and got a little shiner. A lot of kids bump their eye and have to get little stitches, and around their eye or back of their head if they, So these are the things that we have to forgive ourselves for, these accidents and these situations that are unpreventable. And there's a lot of things you should forego telling your children about, because the unfortunate accidents and these little things they don't remember, and the things you mess up as a parent, those are the things you should never disclose to your children, because your children may one day turn around and say, you were a shitty parent because of one XYZ. They've started at A and go through Z. And the last thing you need as an imperfect person who loves their children is to have that thrown in your face. The things that were out of your control. What you can do is you can say to your friend, oh my goodness, my daughter Jenny fell today and she tripped and she got a bloody lip and I feel so bad, and this and that, and I held her. And so talk with a friend about it. But don't keep a journal of it, and don't tell your kids the stuff that you did when you were a teenager. This is the thing, don't become your child best friend. when you have to say no to them, they'll throw that in your face. So just have full disclosure. The best thing you can do is help your child heal. Give them a hug and say, I'm really sorry about this, and let's just, we'll be more careful, but try not to disclose everything to your kids, because it's not important. It's not necessary. Being a good parent means we're going to mess up, we're going to make mistakes, we're going to learn along the way, and hopefully your child will come through unscathed. And hopefully they will have a relationship with you, and when they tell you they hate you, just say, yeah, I know. Sometimes I hate myself too, so that's just the way it is. But just remember, we're all human. We go through stuff. Stuff happens, and if you're still standing today and they're still standing, you're better off for it. So that's all I wanted to say. I hope this helps someone. Have full disclosure and get through life. Bye-bye.